My name's Mike Pennington. My friends call me PK. I am a landscape laborer at Paver King Enterprises, and I am a hardscaper.
All right, Mike, let's get started. To give our audience a little bit of some context about yourself, how you got started in the industry, can you tell us a little bit more about your story?
Sure, absolutely. So I got started in the industry a long time ago, late 80s. And in high school, one of my close friends' uncle and grandfather owned a garden center, and it paid $3.85 an hour to work at Subway, and it paid $5 an hour to shovel dirt into bags. So, I guess I'm greedy. I went with the bag shoveling job, and I started shoveling dirt into bags at the garden center. The thing I liked about it immediately was I always struggled at school. My personality doesn't lend itself to school very well. I don't learn well in that environment. In the environment of working, and I guess in a landscaping form, you were judged by what you could produce and how hard you work, and those are things that I'm good at. No one can change your work ethic. So I think that those are things I was good at. I liked it right away, and I like being outside. So that was sort of my first taste of being in landscaping. That garden center, the two owners of the garden center also owned a commercial landscape contractor, which even then was having labor problems. So oftentimes a truck would show up, we would jump in and we would go to job sites and start working. And I liked that right away too, because again, people didn't care much about who you were, or they weren't judging you because you were struggling spelling something. They wanted you to just be able to work and work hard. And so that's how I got started. I started working up on the landscape crew. I pretty quickly was running my own crew. I think I was like 16 or 17, maybe. I had my own crew going out, and that's my background really, is more commercial contracting. I did that for till at least 1999 for that company, so probably 10 years. I was a foreman there. We did large scale commercial jobs, anywhere from $200,000 to $650,000, take them from start to finish. In 1999, the estimator left. I went with him to a lot of people would know me from Lakeridge Contracting. I went with him to there. After a season of that, I started a weekend gig like everyone does. And obviously with a weekend gig, you can't do commercial. It's a different kind of, so we started doing residential contracting, and we started off doing, our company was solely based around lifting and relaying pavers, because we had no money, no tools, we had nothing. And, when you start out with nothing, lift and relays, I know no one likes it, but for us, it was literally the backbone of what we did. We could do them on the weekend. We didn't have a lot of mass excavation to get rid of. We had almost nothing invested. This is a long time ago. Back then we had 3 yards of natural screenings. All the product was already on the ground, and it was a good way to start a business when all you had was a flat mouth shovel, because we just didn't have a lot of investment. If someone had decided that maybe our work wasn't up to par, they didn't want to pay us for whatever reason, our investment was just Kaz and I's time and some screenings at the time, natural screenings, which seems weird to say now, but and so we started off doing that. We worked every weekend. We bought tools. All we did was buy tools. I remember getting our first beat up dump trailer. We thought we were like total heroes. And then eventually we just, you get to a point where the infrastructure you've built to work on the weekends is so big that you have to make a decision with your life. Is this something we're doing? Is this something we're not doing? How is this going to go? And we made the decision to leave and go on our own. We were on our own for quite a while, a few years. And then, this has nothing to do with Cat, but me, I was very good at business and not very good at life, which led to the downfall of my first relationship. So Kaz took over the business. I was a mess. I went back to, I ended up, literally taking my life down to zero. and decided that, if I went back to being just a laborer and just literally working on the ground, that I could start at zero and work my way back up. So I went back to our old boss, who gave me a job as a laborer. Within a year, he'd known me since, the late 80s. So he moved me up the chain. We started a residential division. We focused on quality. We had great people working with us. And then I did that till I worked at Lakeridge for quite a while. That's where a lot of people would know us from. It's where we sort of started our social media gig. And then I left there in 2017. I was the Permacon rep for 18 months. That absolutely did not suit me. And then after that, my wife and I decided that it was a good thing I'd take another shot. I felt like, Kaz and I had some unfinished chapters from the past. Brian, who was the technical rep at the time and was moving on, was starting his own business. The three of us kind of got together and we said, we're going to do like a collective thing. And so, Paver King was kind of launched, and that's where we are now. So it's kind of a long jumbled story of 30 years, but that's sort of where I am now. And we're proudly running, my wife and I are proudly running Paver King Enterprises. We have, 2 subcontractors with Kaz and Brian that work with us all the time. We have 3 employees, and I think that things grew a bit faster than my hope had been, just to work alone with Kaz, 2 old people doing enough work to survive. But I think we've kind of grown a bit faster than we thought. But when opportunity knocks, if you don't walk through the door, it might never open again. So that's sort of my story. There's a lot of other things that I could talk about, but I don't think we want to talk about my history with landscaping for 40 minutes. So,
well, that's quite an incredible story, and how long you've been in the industry and everything that you've seen. There are a couple questions that I have coming out of that, and that is,
sure.
First off, you've been in the industry for a long time. What are some things that you've seen change that have really blown your mind in terms of, products, tools, equipment, the way an actual landscaping business is operated? What's like a thing that's really changed since you first came into the industry?
I think the biggest thing that's changed is the level of safety. For me, when I started, literally, we used to quite literally climb into the bucket of a 3-yard bucket of a payloader and ride to the job site in the bucket. There was trucks where literally people's lunch boxes were falling through the floor onto the highway if you weren't paying attention. I rode to many jobs in the back of a tandem dump truck. I think that I did jobs on the side of the 401 planting trees. Like, we had a job planting trees and we didn't even have a pylon or a vest. We just pulled over on the shoulder and we would just start working on the side of the road. I can remember graphically on a Sunday morning dumping 100 yards of mulch into the slow lane of the highway without a pylon. Like, when you look at the level of safety that there is now in the industry, that is, to me, is the absolute biggest difference. And the people coming into the industry, or the people working in the industry, the expectation, the people watching out for each other, I think that that's the biggest change. Even with the dust and the masks, I mean, no one told me that. Maybe no one knew. Maybe someone knew, but no one told me that. I suffer from having breathed in copious amounts of dust over my life because I didn't know that it would kill me. I guess I never really thought about it, but now people, even if someone posts a video online cutting with a mask, there's 30 comments, get a mask. And I just think that the level of safety, the level of people caring about that item is definitely the largest change for me. Absolutely. And I think it's great. I'm a huge promoter of safety. When I was the general manager at, I was at, one of my previous companies, I wouldn't give, if people weren't following the safety protocols, I'd just say to them, I don't care how much you show up and I don't care how much you produce, but if I show up on a site and you're not wearing a mask, you're never getting a raise. I take it that serious. I don't ever want someone to get hurt. All of our people know that, everyone that works for us knows that safety is our number one concern. And we have a mobile mechanic that comes into our yard every 4 weeks, changes the oil on our triaxle dump truck and inspects it front to back mechanically. He knows that Christy that drives that truck, I could care less if the truck blew up or something happened, as long as she's safe, number one, and the public is safe, number two. Those are my concerns. I think that if you put safety first and of the people first, then your company will grow and be successful, and you'll have good staff. All of our people get masks. We buy them all boots. We buy them the pants that have the holey bottoms, so that they're the safety pants with they're called Cool Works. We safety for us is really honest. We have in our trailer, it's fully, I should do a video on it maybe, I guess, a full safety package in our trailer. I just think that when you do all that stuff, your people know that you care about them. And sometimes they think it's a pain in the ass, but it doesn't matter. They know that we care about them and we want them to get home to their families, and that's more important than our profit margin. And I think that that's something that everyone, maybe I should take that up as a cause. Our trailer is very specifically set up for safety. Like whenever we're on a site, there's a sheet of paper put up in the trailer that has the address of where we're working, because if something happened, I always know the address of where we're working, but Jay, who works on our crew, doesn't necessarily know it. He got driven there in a truck, and he gets out and he starts working all day, and then all of a sudden I collapse. He doesn't, even if he called 911, he doesn't know where he is. He's running, so they just go to the trailer. They know that the address is there, and they can call. And something that small can save someone. So to me, that's the number one change: safety. Absolutely.
That's really interesting, and it's great to get that perspective. And trailer walkthrough would be really interesting in terms of safety. Getting into the way you started your business, it's exactly the way I started my business. And I started with, and I think the reason why I bring this up is I think somebody can take away something from this, because you don't need to start up and have a $100,000 investment into everything you need. You can start up and dip your toe in and work on the weekends to kind of build up your business. Get those lift and relay jobs because they don't require a lot. I remember getting my first down payment, and I had zero tools, and I just used that down payment right away to buy some tools to get that job done, to then be able to get paid for that job and pay off the materials, and then jump to the next job. And it was just rinse and repeat. Cleaning and sealing jobs are little investment and a great way to get started in the industry. There's just many ways to get started in this industry. Is this something that you would recommend somebody wanting to get into this industry?
For me, I think that I always have, I have I know a lot of people locally, and we always, every spring you see a bunch of brand new pickup trucks with a bunch of brand new, dump trailers pulling into the local suppliers. And I always laugh, because I'm like, well, I'm going to buy your trailer off you in Kijiji in August, buddy. Because I'm like, you just put yourself into, a couple $1,000s a month in overhead in a business that literally didn't exist 3 weeks ago, because it's fun. I think one of the things that happens to people is it's fun to buy trucks. It's fun to buy trailers. And hey, I've not saying that I've never made those kind of mistakes before, but I think that it's a great industry to get into. I think that it can have a low cost of entry, but you have to make the decision that you're not going to do the glory jobs. There is a lot, especially if you were online and you were looking at the industry, there is a lot of love for the huge projects, the massive pools. And I've done those projects in my life. I don't necessarily take them on now, but I have done, projects that were $250,000 residentially. Commercial is a different thing, but residentially, I think that if you want to have a low barrier of entry, then what you need to do is make a decision to say, I'm going to find projects like lift and I started off, honestly, I wouldn't do it now, but we literally put up a piece of paper with our phone number that you could tear off the bottom that said interlock repairs. And it had, like a goofy picture, and we put it up at the local supermarket on the cork board, and literally started the business that way. And I would say that if someone wants to work hard and do some work that other people don't, one of the things that we live by here, and I still live by it, is hard things make money, because hard things are things that people don't want to do. So lifting and relaying pavers and cleaning them and rebuilding other people's jobs. That's hard work. There's no, all the excavation and the machine work and all this stuff that people charge for to get to the point where the hard work starts. It's all done. So, I mean, hard things make money. And if you want to make money in this industry and you want to start with a low cost of entry, then I think that repairing jobs is definitely a way to go for me. I would say to anyone.
Yeah, and I think that came from me a little bit of perspective because my background, I worked for a dealer. So I saw at the beginning of every season these guys that you talked about who just bought that new truck, new trailer, and we'd never seen before just come in and, you know, they were gone in a couple months. So that I knew that I didn't want to be that person coming into the industry. And moving on with your story, you worked for Permacon for a bit as a sales rep. What was it about that didn't work out? For anybody that might be, you know, in this industry and thinking that might be the route that they're going, what was it about that route that didn't work out for you?
First of all, there was a lot of stuff with that job that I struggled with. The people that were amazing. They were all incredibly kind to me over 18 months, and they were very tolerant. But there's a lot of like spreadsheeting and forecasting and meetings where they're flying through numbers on a big screen. And I struggled with keeping up with that end of it. I was working all day doing trying to get to sites, trying to meet people, and then I was also there was a lot of math and a lot of computer stuff and a lot of programs, and it's just not it wasn't me. I was at a point in my life when I took that job that I had incurred some difficulties and not to get into bad things, but some broken promises where I was working, and I needed to get out, and I thought it was an opportunity to maybe my life. I think from the first 2 weeks I knew that I had maybe made a mistake, but if you're going to try to change your life, you have to do something, I feel like, for 12 months, because if you don't do an entire cycle of any job, a full 12-month cycle, and see what it's like, you can't say it wasn't for me. So I did it for the full 12 months. At the end of the 12 months, Kelly and I had a really long conversation, and I decided to start thinking about, but they're great people. It's a great company. It just wasn't for me personally. I tend to be someone who, I know you had Jay from Petroleum on here, and I tend to be someone who struggles. You can almost watch my account and you can tell where my brain is at. I struggle a lot with up very high and very low, and that job I got stuck in a lot of low for a long time. It's a really hard job. The people who've done it for a long time, I have nothing but incredible respect for whoever they work for. You spend most of your day fielding other people's problems and complaints, dealers, contractors, your own company. It's you're really in the middle of everyone. It's a really tough job. Anyone who's done it. It just, for me, I ended up in a lot of long lows, and that's not good for me. Kelly pays close attention to where I'm at all the time, and it just wasn't for me. It was I also, for some reason, my self-perception of myself is that I'm a very lazy person, and I derive a lot of my own self-worth from working hard for whatever reason. And so I feel like that's a lot of hard work, but it's not the hard work where I derive my own self-worth. So, I feel better about shoveling all day than I do about being in a big boardroom meeting on a personal level. And that's not to judge what anyone does. It's just my own, how I feel about myself. If I shovel for a whole day, or I lay pavers for a whole day, or, I can look back and I see 15 empty skids, and I know we pounded 15 skids of pavers down. It makes me feel really good about myself, and really good about our team and our people, and that we're building something. And I just think that, you have to do something that really boosts your own self-confidence and makes you feel good. And that just wasn't the job for me. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. It just, and some other contractors and other people who are looking at maybe an opportunity like that, I think that it might be for them. A lot of those reps come from the other side. So, it just, for me, I kind of felt like I need to go out the way I came in, and it wasn't for me. But that's sort of what happened there. nothing with them. And I don't think it was any, and they were very kind to me when I left. I have nothing but good things to say about all the people and all the team there. They were kind to me the whole time I was there. They tolerated my inability to perform basic computer actions. I think for them it was probably a risky hire because I didn't have, and they took a chance on me. So I'll always appreciate that opportunity. It also turned my life, and I think my family's life, in a different direction. And it really created that job. Really, I think that in 2008, when my life sort of exploded and blew up, I kind of got shattered into 1,000 pieces, and I spent 10 years searching for all those pieces and putting them back in places where they mattered. And I feel like that 18 months at Permacon is where I finally was comfortable enough with myself to put all the pieces back together and sort of become maybe the person that I was previous to the explosion or more implosion of my entire existence. I think that was it was a good place to put those final pieces back together. I'll always appreciate my time, but it just wasn't the right fit for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I phrased the question as to, what was wrong with that Permacon job, but really it wasn't, Permacon. It was the sales job. The role just wasn't suited for you. And I completely understand that. Now, Mike, we're going to get into, obviously we posted on Instagram these asking for questions about you, Paver King. And we're going to get into these questions.
Absolutely. Bring it on. I'm pumped.
Awesome. So Paver_King on Instagram. We asked for these questions. We got them. We got lots to get through here. Obviously, I've got tons more questions for you, but we got to get to these audience questions. And we're going to get into probably, we're going to start serious right away, right off the bat here with a question from Premium Mix Marketing, our guys at Premium Mix Marketing. And right away, this serious question, Paver King. If you had to choose two animals to fuse together and ride into battle, who do you have?
Two animals to fuse together and ride into battle. I am definitely going to go with a honey badger and a lemur, because I feel like the honey badger is obviously indestructible. If you've ever watched a honey badger go nuts on YouTube, and I think that a lemur just has a lot of appeal to me. I think that they have a great community collective. So, and they live in a great community. Then you have the kind of loner honey badger with the big claws. So straight up, a lemur honey badger mix, absolutely right off the top of my head there is how I would go into battle if I had to take two animals in a combination.
Definitely not the two animals I was expecting, but awesome answer to that question for sure.
My brain works in different ways, brother.
Evidently. And another question coming in from Corbin_Pondside. I want to make my company's main service pavers and retaining walls. How can I do this? So we kind of talked a little bit about how you did this, but obviously I think Corbin Pond has an existing business in the pond side of things. How can he kind of shift his company towards servicing pavers and retaining walls?
I think that if you already have an existing business as a pond company, which sort of that name leads to, I think that the thing I would do is find a designer that's known for designing paver patios and outdoor living spaces that include pavers and walls. If you want to change your business, one of the things that happened to us, sort of a different answer, but one of the things that happened to us when I was running the resident at Lake Ridge Contracting was that I struggle with closing jobs over $40,000. It could be my appearance, my beard, the fact that I'm always covered in dirt. I don't know what the struggle was. So I went out and I brought in Nancy Green, who everyone knows works with me all the time. I think that if you are a pond company and you're good at designing ponds and that's what you've designed all the time, find a designer who can start to incorporate those other elements into your projects. And you have to start to get people view you in a different way, which also, obviously if your company is pre-existing, maybe you have a client list that you email, not so much at this company because my company has different sort of revenue streams now, but at past companies, I would keep a client list. And if we were offering a new service, I would throw out an email. And then the other thing I would say to you is when you do your first few jobs, focus extremely on the quality. If you want to build a business with a new services that you haven't necessarily provided in the past, make sure when you provide those services, they are absolutely top notch. Because if you want to get recommended, then that's how you do it. Taking on a patio and then doing, squeezing in, saying, you bid it for 3 days, you're into the fourth day, it's one patio. So I would say to you, just keep your quality high, no matter how tempting it is to cut a corner to get finished a bit faster. When you start a new service, there's always going to be a struggle with the first few jobs. So get a designer that's designing, and make sure your first few projects are absolutely top notch, even if it costs you a bit off your margin. And you got to make sure you're doing high quality work.
Excellent answer. And getting into that a little bit further here, we also have a question from Brown Dog Art and Design. And they asked specifically, what is the handoff like from your design team to your construction team work? So you talked about Nancy Green there. Can you get a little bit more in depth about maybe how you networked with Nancy, how that all came together, and what is it like when you land a job? Do you hand that over to Nancy to design? Does she get these jobs to design and hand them over to you? And then where does it kind of go? Where does that communication with her go from there?
So Nancy obviously has leads come in. Nancy works with about 4 or 5 of us contractors. And then when she has leads come in, she picks the contractor that's best suited to the project that she has. A lot of times it's in terms of location. Eddie from Green Scene GTA, she works with him out in the west. I don't want to do jobs in Toronto and drive 3 hours. So, if a lead comes to her, Nancy decides out of the 3 or 4 contractors she works with all the time where she's going to take it. If a lead comes through our website, the first thing that happens is it will come to my email. I'll forward it to Kelly in the office because I'm a busy person and I tend to forget about those things. So recognizing that's a weakness for me, I forward it to Kelly. Kelly will make first contact with that client if it's a smaller project that we think that won't necessarily need a design, because we're a business that's only been around for I guess 18 months. I've been in the industry a long time, but Paver King Enterprises is a relatively young business. So Kelly will go and look at a lot of smaller stuff that we'll do. If we feel like it's a project where we've asked the right questions and they feel like it's a big patio then Nancy, oftentimes now, as Kelly's taking a more active role, Kelly and Nancy will go meet the clients. Nancy has a lot of experience working with me. So we'll determine if they need a design, we'll determine if they, how we're going to move forward with it. And then normally, if it's a big design project, we'll schedule a second consultation with the client. And then I'll go, if there's a lot of grade stuff, Nancy's good with grades. She has a zip level, but sometimes if there's a lot of complicated entry, I'll have a look at it with her. We'll produce a drawing. I'll put a quote together. And then if it's almost any job, we almost always go and present the drawing and the quote. I mean, this year with COVID, it's been a bit different, but Nancy and I we call it sitting in the kitchen, and we'll go down and we'll present our drawing, we'll present our quote, and we'll do our sales pitch, I guess is the best way to describe it. And that's how we sort of close out jobs. Once we have the job, it goes on our board in the office. One of the things I've learned is try to keep a loosely based schedule. Don't make promises to people about exact days you're going to show up. And then Nancy will meet the clients at one of our local supply yards. They'll pick out all their materials. It's part of our service to meet at the supply yard so that they can get a full grasp of the materials. We like people to touch and feel stuff. I hate the thought of 20 bundles of paver showing up, someone coming out and going, this isn't how it looked like in the book. And then Kelly calls for locates. Once we're about a week out from the job, week and a half, we get our locates, we schedule our delivery, we sort of move forward with the job on day one. If I'm running the job, I'm there on day one. We just finished a job where Kaz and Brian run it because we had to split our crew. We had a Saturday meeting. We all went over what we were doing on that job. We formulated a plan that worked best for the equipment that was going to be on site, and then they moved forward on the Monday. So That's sort of our current system. It'll always, I think, always be being tweaked because our company has grown and diversified in ways that we didn't expect, but that's how we sort of do it now. If you, to me, if you want to generate the most possible, then you should have a designer on staff, someone that brings a different perspective, because your perspective isn't going to match up with every client. That's my take on it.
Keeping that trend of meeting with a customer and talking with them about certain products, we've got a question from oneanddone.contracting that asks, what is your favorite stone to use, manufacturer, and why?
I will always have a very big place in my heart for Tekawak. We don't always use Tekawak, but we do use them a lot. I think that, they do a lot for the industry. One time I was, it was when my life had kind of imploded. We ended up at a Tekawak showcase, and I saw Pete, and after it, I emailed him and I was like, hey, I've been in this industry a long time. I've never seen anything like this where someone was like so overtly proud of what they were doing. And I think so. I like Bobby that runs the Tekawak account. We have a good time. We joke around. I just think they'll always have a special place in my heart. They'll always be the ones that they'll always be our sort of go-to. We've been in their catalog. Our one fire pit's been in their catalog for like 6 years. That's sort of our number one go-to is always Tekawak. And then we also have a great relationship with, not that this is sort of expanding on this question, but we also have a great relationship with Best Way Stone. I think they're a great local company. I really like everyone that works there. So they're sort of our two go-tos, I guess, this year have been. I mean, we use products from everyone. That's not to say that anyone else is manufacturing things that aren't, but those are definitely the two that we sort of currently go to.
Do you have a go-to stone? If you're meeting a customer specifically, do you have a go-to stone for kind of starting them off the discussion about choosing a product?
Anything that lays in a pattern that isn't random. I hate random pattern. It's so slow. I'm just like, I push people towards like linear designs that are running bond or herringbone or like, I think that really the go-to stones right now for anyone is sort of that 3-size stone with the 13.5 by, and everyone manufactures one. They all manufacture one. I think that the 13.5 by 13.5 square, the 13.5 by 6 and whatever, they all make that stone. You can easily list them off: Blue, Travista, Melville, or Modern. Like Kid Hill. They're all. That's the go. To me, that's sort of the go-to. And then if someone it says like, I don't want that stone, I'm like, wow, awesome, because I've done so much of that. Let's look a different way. But they're all there. It's a great product. It creates that larger stone that people want. So I think that's sort of, I think it's kind of everyone's go-to. I wish that my go-to was, 4x8s and a herringbone, because I can lay that a lot faster. It's a lot less hassle. But it's just not the way the industry is right now. So, but I think that's our go-to too. Is we usually end up with some kind of 3-size random large-scale slab, or depending on the application.
We've got a question coming in from Aaron's_outdoor_spaces asking you about decks. Paver King, we understand your hatred towards decks. So what is the best way to make a deck suffer? He says, after building a Chippendale railing, I think a Sawzall might be too nice.
Obviously our preferred method of deck destruction is a Sawzall, because we want that deck to suffer. We want it to understand the pain that it's caused over the last few years of rotting and having people falling off the edge and having to contain your party. We also sometimes, and Brian, there's a video of him. Brian will get out the axe. He is an old school axe man, and if you really want a deck to suffer, then don't ever hesitate to stock your tool trailer with a good sharp axe. That would be absolutely my advice, is keep the axe handy. If you think the deck has been particularly brutal on the clients, get the acts out. It might take a bit more time, but the amount of satisfaction you get from it will definitely be worth it in my experience.
Excellent advice. And Paver King, what is it about decks that you absolutely despise, that you hate?
I think that's one of those things that just kind of grew on mine and got a little bit out of hand, maybe. But I don't like decks because decks don't pay my mortgage, and that's what it comes down to. I don't build them. I've never built them. I don't understand all the little intricacies of them. So I know that decks definitely have taken money from my business and from my family. So that's why I don't like them. No deck has ever helped me pay my mortgage or help me make payroll. So until a deck steps up to the plate and helps me with that, I got no use for them.
Excellent. So getting to Richard from RC Outdoors question here. He's got a question and a statement here. So I'm going to go through it all. Why do you have such a dirty mouth? And do you think it affects customers' buying decisions when they hear that on Instagram? Or do you not get leads from Instagram? Either way, I love what you're putting out, and I wake up every day wondering what the Paver King said on Instagram.
I have gone to people's houses and done like a sales presentation, and then they're like, "Oh, your company's named after an Instagram account. I'm going to look it up." And immediately in my brain, I'm like, "Oh God, what the hell have I posted? What was the last thing we did?" I just in my mind, I would say every fifth picture might be some job we did. So I'm like, "Oh crap." I think that. So when I started the account, I worked for a contractor, and I was representing him because I was the general manager of that company. Although I was very involved in the entire operation of it, I was not an owner. So I was very careful about what I posted online. And then, I started working at Permacon, and although I was watching a video from when I worked there, and it was me throwing a Tim Hortons cup full of gas into a bunch of burning skids in an excavator bucket. And so I thought, wow, I can't believe I didn't get fired when I did that, but whatever. When we started on our own, when Paver King Enterprises, when we registered the business, and Kelly and I started on our own, I was just like, you know what, man, it's just not, it's a lot of the stuff that's happening there. It's not how I talk. It's not how I necessarily am in life. And I'd rather be real about it. And I'm sure, to be perfectly honest, if someone looked us up on Instagram and didn't hire us because I was swearing, then I wouldn't want to work for that person anyways, because if their expectation is that, our crew is going to show up and there might not be a couple F-bombs, or someone might not say I don't even know if I don't know if anyone's ever said this on your podcast, but if someone says the word fun on a job site, if someone has that expectation of us, I think that job might go sideways. So, I try to be myself now, and I try to be real. And if it costs me a client, it costs me a client. I think that we generate enough leads that I look for people who really like us to work for. I haven't been in a position in a really long time where I had to work for someone that we didn't like or didn't like us. So I agree with Richard that it probably has cost me here and there. And maybe it's a little bit different, but I think that it's who I am, and it's just the way we are. It's the way we operate. I also have if anyone who's worked with me for a long time would know that I have a very, very bad temper. As I get older, I've got it more under control, but I just think that it at least gives people a real perspective on who I am and how things are going to be. And it doesn't create a false impression, but I'm sure somewhere down the line, and it might not be for everyone. It depends who your client base is too. It also depends on what you're trying to drive. We have, Christy drives our truck, so you could count. She's definitely an incredible member of our team, but she doesn't work with us daily. That's almost a separate entity and a separate business, the trucking. But there's only 5 of us, and 4 of us are 50 or older. So I don't know how much work I really need to find, like Lucas drags down a medium age, but so for me, I don't need thousands of leads. I don't have 10 crews. I've run companies where there was 25 people. I don't want that. It's not something I want in my life. So maybe it restricts us absolutely, but it's who I am. And I just got really tired of watching my mouth and my language. And I still try. I mean, my kids both follow my account, so I try to be reasonable, but sometimes stuff slips out, or just having a bad day, or so that's my take on
it. That prompts many questions from my own head here. So beginning with that truck that you bought, what prompted that decision to purchase that truck? Was it you wanted that? I'll just ask you right open. Yeah, what prompted that decision?
The truck means a lot to me. It's sort of I know it's a dump truck, but to me it means a lot. One of the things we do is we have a big client. Everyone knows that who follows us. We have one big client we do a lot of work for, and when you do a lot of work for a big client, you have to look at holes in their business and opportunities you could drive forward in their business. And that big client that we work for, Sitescape, Joseph, who'll probably be happy I mentioned him. He's such a good person. His business is not that. He doesn't have any big trucks. His business is it's a very different and diverse business model from a normal landscaping company. So we recognize that maybe that was somewhere we could help his business, and so we float a lot of his equipment. If they need on-time deliveries, because obviously whenever you call a supplier, you're kind of at the whim of the supplier. They call us for on-time deliveries. Before we buy any piece of equipment, we look at not how we're going to pay for it. We look at how our clients are going to pay for it, which is sort of a different way, I think, than most people look at it. So before we bought that dump truck, I did a lot of thinking, okay, how are our clients going to pay for this truck so that we can pay for it? And we obviously had a big opportunity with Joseph, and then I've dealt with Arns for a long time, and then we obviously promoted the truck and the trucking. We've had a lot of people call us from Instagram. We probably get a lot of leads. We get a lot of leads for the truck from Instagram. What really prompted the purchase was Christy was, first of all, there was the opportunity. I felt like there's a big opportunity with one of our clients. And then I felt like the truck would take our business in a direction that we want to go, which is, as we get older, we want to do more excavating projects. So that truck will definitely drive that side of our business. But one of the biggest factors was that Christy worked with me at Lakeridge for a very long time. I know exactly what kind of person she is. And she, through a different set of circumstances, didn't have a position. She wasn't working. So, we took advantage of a couple opportunities when we bought that truck. Christy was looking for a job, and finding the right driver for your truck is the number one thing. And we had an opportunity to maybe grow our business with one of our biggest clients where we were already doing a lot of work for. It also, I had a friend who had a dump truck and a trailer that passed away, and I just always thought that he was a baller, and it was so brave to buy this truck, and because trucking is totally different than landscaping. It's a different world. You don't know what your truck might be doing 24 hours ahead of time with that investment. It's landscaping, you build the schedule, you go. Trucking is totally different. We are booking that truck 6 hours before it goes out the next morning. It's just the way trucking is. So it's a very active. I find it to be stimulating. I just always thought that someone who owns a truck like that was big time, and I've always wanted one. We had the right driver. We had a great client. I felt like we could build other clientele up, which we have, and it's a diverse revenue stream for us that has nothing to do with the landscaping side. Generally, the truck does haul for us and work for us periodically, but I would say probably that's 10% of the truck's business, and then the truck hauls for other people about 90% of the time. But it's definitely a different revenue stream for us, and it's kind of a direction we, as we get older. I love hardscaping, but I also graphically understand the devastation it can do to your body. So, but that's sort of how the truck came about. it was opportunity. It knocks on the door. Getting that truck on the road was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. It was just astronomically hard. And the whole time I was working on it and doing it, I was like putting that deal together to get that thing on the road. The whole time I was doing it, I was like, hard things make money. Just remember that. And I just kept driving myself forward based on that thought. And the truck has done well for us. It's been an amazing addition to, I think it also lets people see our company in a different light. And it opens up a lot of opportunities for us to do other things.
What was hard about getting it on the road? Was it has to do with
pick something, finding a truck, buying a triaxle dump truck. We wanted a SPIF compliant truck because, they're going to reduce the tear on the drop trucks in Ontario. So we needed a SPIF compliant truck. Finding a truck, it's not like buying a car. There's not 10,000 of them on a lot. When we were looking for that truck, there was, 5 trucks for sale in Ontario that we were maybe considering. And then that truck has been a good match for us. But that's one of the difficulties, is finding the right truck. Getting insurance on the truck in Ontario was totally insane. Getting it licensed, I've been around trucks for a long time. Obviously, some of the other businesses I've been in had big trucks, but making sure your CVOR is covered, making sure that you have all your paperwork. Trucking paperwork is another level of insanity. Anyone that has even a pickup truck now has a crazy amount of paperwork. It was a difficult getting. The truck and trailer themselves, I'm not scared to say that, we paid $120,000 for that truck and trailer. They're not cheap. A brand new one's $240,000. So, that truck and trailer is a big investment. It's a lot of money tied up. It was, and to tie up that much money in something you hope is going to work is scary. So it was a hard thing to do, but we did it. I'm so happy we did. I think it has definitely opened up opportunities, but that's really just the paperwork part of it is a crazy grind. It was now that it's on the road and it's there, we can look at it and say, okay, it was all worth it. But at the time we were also trying to do a million other things. So it was a hard go, but that's sort of like the trucking paperwork and making sure all your T's are crossed and I's are dotted is a difficult thing for anyone that's thinking about putting a big truck on the road. There's also a whole different set of laws, and, our mechanics don't deal with air brakes. And the first time it broke down, we all quite honestly had no idea what to do. When it broke down at the side of the road, it blew the steering box out of it. We found a mobile mechanic. They came, they fixed it. Now we have a whole bunch of policies in place for anything that happens. We have a mechanic that we deal with regularly. We have a shop we deal with regularly. We just got our float certified, and normally it's really hard to find someone that'll cert a float that's on air. So it's an interesting thing. It's a great adventure, I think, for us, but it was hard.
And then getting into, so you're on site, and are you fielding calls from landscaping clients and also fielding calls from people wanting to book the truck?
Yep. I'm fielding calls and texts from both, DMs. Landscaping clients, honestly, I feel like we've moved to a spot where Kelly and Nancy handle the landscaping clients. I do the consultation, I do the quoting. I would meet them to close if I felt like we needed to, I felt like that was I've spent a lot of time practicing closing, building rapport with people. So I feel like that's something I would do too. But I think that I definitely don't field as many calls from clients. I have fielded a lot of calls from clients this year because of the infamous slab and paver shortage of 2020, because it's kind of screwed up people's schedules. And I think that sometimes, as much as people don't want to blame the contractor, you're just the face of the shortage, so I have fielded some calls. I do field most of the calls to book the truck. Christy deals with a lot of that too. If people text her directly now and ask her availability, she knows her schedule, usually a loosely based schedule a week ahead of time. So she takes calls and we stock a lot of local landscapers' yards. We can be very competitive on pricing, pulling from the pit. So we stock people's yards. There's a few guys that have yards we stock. We stock a couple people's salt domes. We started doing that. That's a new venture, the whole salt venture. But You know, Christy will take calls too and book the truck herself. She knows what she has to do. She knows where she has to go. She's a very independent person, so you'd have to be. She drives around alone most of the time. But yeah, so I do field a lot of that stuff, and we do talk about it, but I do a lot of it sort of on the drive home or on the drive to the site or at lunch or break. I very rarely eat my whole lunch because I'm usually trying to do something, but I try to we have diversified that as the business has grown a bit, because obviously if I am the end of the funnel for every single thing we do, the business can't grow. You know, that's how I sort of look at it. If everyone's doing all this stuff, but the funnel still ends up at me, the business can't grow. We have to diversify all the different things we need to do, because otherwise everyone is just waiting around for me to make every decision and do everything, which will never let you grow. If you push your funnel through you for everything, you're never going to get very big.
And a question coming in about the truck from Martoccia Landscape. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Martoccia. They asked, they're curious on your thoughts on not putting your contact info on the truck's equipment, uniforms, etc. He likes the aesthetic. Just wondering, where are the contact information?
So we don't. We don't have equipment is stickered, but it's all stickered to the color that the sticker is on. So if you have a white Paver King sticker, it goes on white paint. The only sticker that's off color is there's a silver sticker on the white truck, because the CVOR number is required by law to be visible. And so that is that on the side of the truck. There is the sticker on the back of it. I don't want to, when we subcontract a lot of work, it's one of our big revenue streams is subcontracting. So, I try to be respectful to the people we're subcontracting off. There's multiple different clients. Our equipment shows up. It doesn't look like it isn't the client we're working for's equipment. We don't ever entertain an idea that we don't work for that client. We just come in, we do the work, we perform it, and we leave. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons is that probably our largest revenue stream is through subcontracting. So we don't need to advertise that much. This is just a personal opinion. I don't particularly like the leads that get generated by having your phone number on the side of your trailer or truck or anything. I find those to be, in my experience, they tend to be leads where, you're probably going to bid against other people. We make it as hard and I know this is the opposite of what everyone else is doing, but that's just how I usually roll. We make it hard for people to find us and get a hold of us because I feel like those leads are better. That being said, like I said, again, we're not running 5 crews, so I don't need to find 100 jobs. I need to find 10 good jobs for the season. So, and we have people who are incredibly kind to us, like Joseph from Sitescape and Chris from Humber Valley, that will keep us busy in a pinch if I make a call. So, and we have that's just 2, but we have lots of other clients that will call us and help us. If we were looking for work, which hasn't happened yet. It's been a good market this year. I think everyone sort of had that good market. So, but yeah, we don't make it easy for people to find us. I don't need, one of the hardest lessons I ever learned was we used to do one home show every year a long time ago. We would generate a lot of leads from it, and we would go out and we would sell from a home show, which I'm sure lots of people did. And then one year we had this brilliant idea that let's do a second home show. That's a good idea. And so we did the second home show. And what happened was we generated 300 leads from the 2 home shows. And the work that I really wanted, the stuff that was really good, that was really important to me, it ended up not getting my full focus and attention because I was too busy showing up to price someone sodding their front lawn, which I have no interest and nothing against people who sod front lawns. It's just not what our business was set up for. And our overhead couldn't justify going to that job. I think that I just learned back then that having too many leads is actually worse than not having enough, because if you don't have enough leads, you can grind out and pay really close attention and do an incredible sales job to close the few leads you have. Whereas if you have way too many, you're just going to end up pissing off people and getting work you never wanted.
So where are the most of your leads coming from at this moment? Are you mostly word of mouth?
With the pandemic, we didn't know how things were going to go. We did build a website on worksites.net for anyone who's if someone's looking to build a great website with a great company. I've been working with them for 10 years. So we built a worksites.net website. We do generate quite a few leads from it. I started a Google thing. I would say that's where the majority of our, we get leads from Nancy. Um, I get leads from a lot of people calling who are sort of swamped and say, hey, is this something you could do? Other contractors. I spend a lot of time networking with other contractors in our area. So I get leads from them. We don't need a ton of, like, that's the one thing I would say is we don't need a ton of leads. So those avenues sort of fill our funnel. And I would rather, like, I think the last year that we ran Lake Ridge Residential, we bid 12 jobs, got 10 of them. And those 10 jobs filled the $1 million we needed to do with the residential division. So that's, I mean, I'm very much more of a quality over quantity person. So, I would rather spend time on work that I really want to do with people I really want to do the work for. I've showed up to jobs with Nancy. We've walked around with a client and I've said, yeah, you know what, you're not the right person for us. It's been good. We'll see you later. And we just left multiple times because I don't work for people I don't like. I don't work for people. I learned a long time ago, there's no profit in that. So don't do it. It just, if you have a bad first interaction with someone, cut it short, cut your losses, get out and move on. That's just my advice. Like, you just can't. So, I mean, we don't need a lot of leads. That's getting back to the original question is, we get some leads from the website. We get some leads from social media, I guess. We get some leads from other contractors and we get leads from designers. We did some work with Joanne Shaw this year, another great local designer. We do work with Nancy. And then honestly, we do probably 60% of our work is subcontract work, either contractual or hourly. So, I'm always looking for opportunities with that too. I don't particularly love at one time I loved the going out and the rush of meeting people and getting those sales. My daughter and my son both play sports. I want to get to their sports. I don't want to be at people's houses at 8 o'clock at night. If someone else wants to do all the or even my first love is always commercial work. If someone else wants to do all the background, I'm happy to, essentially what happens is I'm working are my rates a little bit less when we're working, by the hour on a big, huge commercial job than they would be if I had to do all the background, find that work, close that work, and do all the infrastructure stuff. Absolutely, our rates are a little bit less. I'm happy to give on that to be home at 6 o'clock and be able to take the kids where they need to go.
Changing this tone a little bit here, we got a question from Pear Tree Property Services, peartree_property_services. And Paver King, he doesn't want to know how to hardscape. He wants to know how to manscape. So, special tools needed, maybe we already use different styles. Maybe there's a style that's in fashion right now and none of us are aware of it. Can Paver King enlighten us on this subject?
So I would say that the number one tool that I use for manscaping, and I've had it for 10 years now, maybe more. I was just actually using it. I was like, wow, I've had this thing a long time, is definitely a nose hair trimmer. If you're going to manscape, you got to get the nose hair trimmer. Do not, I know people, nose hair is something people don't want to talk about. They don't want to acknowledge it. It just creeps out. You can't see it. We're shoving scissors up there. Don't pull that stuff. Get out, get yourself a solid nose hair trimmer. You will never regret that purchase. That is definitely something that we use. I also have a very reliable set of dog clippers that I shave my head with. So, dog clippers and a nose hair trimmer, and that is really the keys to manscaping as far as I'm concerned. Also, score yourself a set of yellow glasses. Always score yourself a set of yellow sunglasses. That's another thing I can't recommend more.
So what is it about, actually, that one of those questions came up. We already asked that person's question. I forget who it was, but they also asked about your amber sunglasses. And also I'll ask your chain that we always see. What is the story behind these two things that we often see you with?
So the amber glasses is an interesting, I find human behavior super interesting. And I think that amber and yellow sunglasses definitely have a reputation through Hollywood and the movies of being people who are off balance wear the yellow sunglasses. One of my favorite movies is Big Lebowski. In that movie, the John Goodman character is always wearing these yellow sunglasses and obviously off balance. And so that's sort of kind of where it all came from. But I also like the fact that if you were to wear yellow sunglasses somewhere, you would immediately notice a completely different way that people treat you. You get a lot better service. People are a lot more polite, because I find that yellow sunglasses are the international sign of crazy. I think they, off balance. So I like them. I find they clean up my vision a lot. I wear them a lot. They will, the first day you truly commit to yellow sunglasses, they'll probably give you a driving skull ache because things are so bright. But that's the sort of the story behind the yellow glasses. It was sort of like a thing that I started wearing them on job sites. I felt like if you go into a large commercial job site meeting, and oftentimes you need things to happen so that your project can move forward. If you're in there with a set of yellow sunglasses and a bad attitude, you can move a lot of stuff forward on a job site. The chain, I've had it for, actually my daughter Paisley just asked me about this. I've had this chain for at least 25 or 30 years. I've had it repaired a bunch of times. It's just part of who I am, I think. I don't even remember that it's there most of the time. I've always worn it. I started off wearing thin chains, and then I like the feeling of having the weight around my neck. So that's just, I always wear it. It's just part of, I guess, who I am. It was part of me long before there was ever Instagram or Facebook, or I've been wearing it since probably the mid-90s.
Very interesting. And we've got a question from JRC Landscaping, JRC Land on Instagram. And he asks, have you ever made an employee walk back from Peterborough?
So Justin and I have a long history. He's a local guy. He's a great person, and he'll get upset with me he wants to always be a badass, but he is one of the best people I know. So he'll get upset with me saying that. But so on a different topic, one of the things I think I've learned, I think Justin's question leads to a lot of things. Did that happen? Probably, I would say. I've done a crazy amount of horrible things to people in landscaping. And that would probably be one of them, make someone walk home. I think that when I first took over as a crew leader, being very young, managing people very much older than me, I think that, the leadership style that I leaned to and what I learned was volatility and making sure people are afraid of you, and doing things that are not right to people to keep them under your thumb and keep them moving forward on projects. And when you don't have any leadership skills, that's, I think, the default. I often feel horrible that I've probably driven more people out of landscaping as a profession than I've ever brought into it, because I was, and I try very hard not to anymore. I've changed my leadership style a lot over probably the last 10 years. I've worked really, really hard on temper control, changing my leadership style, managing people in different ways. But Justin is totally justified in asking that question because he knows me, and I could tell 100 stories of things I've done to get work done. But over the last 10 years, I've tried to develop a leadership style where now I think that the market for labor has changed a lot too. I think that you just can't behave like that anymore. I think there was a time when you could, lead through volatility and there was no problem. But I think that the labor market's changed, the labor laws have changed, people's ability to contact those people has changed, and you have to change with the times. It's something I've done. My theory on leadership is sort of when times are really good, you push your people to the front in front of you. When times are sort of like on par to where you think they should be, you stand in the middle. And the people that are doing well, you keep pushing to the front. The people that are behind you, you turn and you try to bring them to the front. And when things are really, really bad and things are horrible, that's when you step out in front of your people and you absorb every single shot that people give. And that's sort of my leadership style now. I can still, and a lot of people I work with now work with me for a long time, so they can tell when I'm getting lit up and I'm probably going to go down a bad path, and they'll reel me in. But yeah, no, I probably did that to someone. But to be honest, I don't remember that exact time, but I have done a lot of questionable things. So I have worked hard to change, and now I think I definitely lead in a different way. I have for quite a while. Try to lead through growth. One of the things I recognized was that you need to put people in a place to succeed. And when things don't go right, you need to take ownership of it. I've, said for a long time, something goes bad, it's my fault. Doesn't matter, when we had 3 or 4 job sites running, when I was running Lakeridge, if something goes wrong, that's on me, it's my fault. I didn't put those people in the right position to succeed. I didn't recognize their weakness, or I didn't recognize their strength. I didn't put them where they needed to be. So, now if anyone can learn anything from this whole question that Justin posed, I would say that making sure that you're putting people every day in a position to succeed is the most important thing you can do running a company or managing crews. Whereas before, that was not my case. My case was to just tell someone to go do something without ever analyzing whether or not they could even do it, and then get really mad at them and make them walk home to Oshawa. So, I guess that's the answer to my long-winded answer to that question.
So getting into employees here a little bit, we did have some questions come in, some general questions about employees, but where have you found your employees, and how long do you give your employees that training before you might realize that maybe they're not built for this hardscape life, or maybe this is just not for them?
All of our current staff came from the past, where people that I knew from the past that were looking for a new opportunity, that were willing to take a risk with us. Because obviously, being a new company, I'm thankful every day that the people that work with us were willing to take that risk on us, because a new company can go a lot of different ways. Still can. There's nothing saying that we're solidly based anymore, right now. But so all the current people we have are people that we found from the past. I think that I have done some speaking engagements on hiring. I actually have a whole thing on it, but I think that in today's market, one of the things we did was we looked for people that would struggle to find employment for any different reason, and then we took that as an opportunity to help these people flourish. And then that once they're flourished with you, some are still going to leave, but a lot will stay and appreciate that you gave them an opportunity, or you looked past whatever problems or issues they had. Christy drives our dump truck. It's unfortunately unique that a woman is driving that truck. It shouldn't be that way, but it is unique. And maybe her opportunities at the time when she had no experience were limited. So, when she started with us, I spent a lot of time with her, making sure that she would go down a path to success. And there was a lot of yelling, because she would be in the truck and I'd be in the excavator and be screaming at each other. But, I think that we definitely worked our way through it. And anyone who's worked with her would tell you what a great driver she is. And she just needed the great opportunity. I think that everyone that works in this business for a really long period of time, in my opinion, in my time that I've been here, every single person that works in this business for a really, really long period of time is generally broken in some way. There's just something that happened to them, or it's, I am often inspired by people who took this in school and wanted to do this from the time they were kids, because I think that that's not generally most of the people who are working in this business. I think a lot of people find it through different ways. I found it through shoveling dirt into bags and finding out that, if I could steadily do something, people would be nice to me. Unlike maybe the experience I had with in school with principals and stuff. Everyone has something that drives them to be here. Some people are inspired, and I'm happy for those people, but I think for a lot of us, it's something that we find. So finding people that, in the end, finding people that first of all, I think finding people that really need a job, and then finding a way to help them achieve their goals and help them flourish are all things that are really important if you want to find staff. How to find staff, I've honestly, there's some funny, Lucas that works with us now, we were doing a big job in Peterborough, walking pavers through an underground tunnel in Pales. And we were hiring, we didn't want to burn out our staff. So we were just hiring like 20 people to do it. And one person called me and said, hey, I'm looking for a job. And I said, great. And then at the end of the phone interview, I said, hey, do you have any friends you can bring with you? And he said, yeah, I'll bring my buddy. I said, sure, bring him on. And, Lucas showed up in the yard, and he worked hard, and he's a very unique person, very good. And, he's just someone that we've tried to put in his position of strength. And I feel like he's grown, and he's gotten to places that he wanted to be and been able to do things he wanted to do. I think that's the same for all our staff. I just, how you find those people is always unique, but I think that I would challenge everyone when you're doing your interviews, hire the candidate that you think is least qualified, and look under those rocks for long-term staff, and then put them in places to succeed and give them opportunities that suit their strengths, and then you'll be surprised what happens with people.
Question from Connolly Lawn and Garden. Connolly Lawn, boxers are brief for hardscaping?
I've always gone briefed. I'm not a boxer guy. It just doesn't suit me. Boys, I need a home. My boys need a home when I'm hardscaping. I do not like the boxers. I just find it to be like, why am I not just wearing shorts? I don't know. I don't know that I can't judge the difference between boxers and shorts. And I guess that's just always been an internal life struggle for me. So
getting into these last few questions, this one's a bit of a serious one. We've had some really good serious questions, but this one is, from Caddison Hipple. I hope I got that correctly, but he asks, what is the single hardest event, situation, or shortcoming you have faced in your business, and what did you do to overcome it?
In the current business, I think that, one of our current struggles that Kelly and I work on all the time is cash flow. We have a lot of different moving parts. We have a lot of stuff going on, and if it wasn't for Cal in the office, I think that the business would be a total mess. It's not because of that, but definitely a struggle for us is cash flow. Keeping on top of everything. We have a bookkeeper, Sean Fair, who works with us. We have Kelly in the office, making sure all the bills are paid and stuff. I think that that's certainly a struggle for this business that we've had, which I think that everyone can relate to. We also do sort of a unique, most of the hardscape accounts, I think, are focused on residential, and residential is a little bit different. We do residential, which is great for cash flow. You kind of do the work, you get paid. Commercial is a bit different. We're often sitting on money, and being a new company, we are very fiscally responsible. And we are very careful with how we spend money. And we're very careful with how we manage our overhead. I think overhead the management of your overhead is definitely the number one way that people sink their new businesses. And that's one thing we don't buy anything without analyzing it and figuring out whether or not it's a smart purchase for us. So, and like I said before, figuring out how are our clients going to pay for this item. But that's definitely been our struggle this way. I think staffing is always, I think that one of the biggest struggles too is that you get, specifically in the spring, this is a struggle time, not necessarily with this business, but over time in the spring, you get this bombarded. You get Mike Tyson versus Larry Holmes sort of in the spring with opportunity. And learning to pick through those opportunities, I often say that you make the most money off the job you don't do, because the move and don't take a job, that opens up the opportunity to do the job you really wanted. Getting jammed up doing work that you never wanted because you didn't know how to handle that, that's probably one of the biggest hurdles that I think people need to learn how to judge and not how to put it through. That would be one of my number one things.
Absolutely. So these next two questions, Mike, these are people that you would know very, very well. So I'm going to just pose the question. I want you to try to guess who you think it is that's asking the question. And then we'll get into my final question to close off this interview. So the first question from someone you know really well is they want to know 2 pros, 2 cons of employing women. And there has to be a legitimate con in this. So first of all, who is this that's asking this question? And can you think of 2 pros and 2 cons of employing women?
Gonna guess maybe Hillary from Leaf. I'm not 100% sure. We've had a lot of conversations on this. There's lots of pros. I think that, the labor, I mean, if you're not looking at hiring women, then you're absolutely cutting yourself out of 50% of the labor market. I think that women bring a completely different aspect to your business. I think that they are smart and intelligent and have a different set of life circumstances that can help you grow and have different. I mean, I have oftentimes have conversations with, there's 3 women that are obviously are Christy, Kelly in our office, Christy, our truck driver, and Nancy, our designer, are women that I deal with almost every day. And I think that their life experiences definitely are different than mine. And they might see something in a subtly different way that definitely helps our business. I think that that's one big pro. Another big pro is I think that there's nothing but goodwill when people find out that your construction company is employing women in terms of clients. Showing up with a woman as your landscape designer and having a woman running your office, doing all your kits, dealing with a woman show up driving your big dump truck with a float. I just think it amazes people that aren't used to that, and I think the goodwill that you get from it is incredible. I think that those are 2 big pros. Cons, legitimate cons, is that I think that that's a bit of a bigger struggle for me. Everyone knows that I am very, very pro-woman. I think that a con is definitely that it definitely could lead to times when the women that are working within your business are not treated properly, which can definitely lead to volatile confrontations between your crew and other people working on job sites, because obviously our crew is very, not that I feel like women need to be protected, but I think sometimes they're just not treated well. And I think that that's definitely, I guess you could call that a con, is that there's always something to, unfortunately, in our society go awry. Maybe that's one. And then, I mean, I think that, I think it's ridiculous to say in today's society with, the amount of machinery we have and stuff, but there could maybe just be, it's so hard. I don't find that many cons with it, but I mean, I guess some people would say that women in general maybe not be as strong as men. I think that a woman who's chosen this path is more determined, which I think is way better than being strong. I think being determined and smart can lead you down a path where you don't need to be strong. But I think that those are maybe 2. But I mean, to me, I don't like, if you carry 3 pavers every day steadily, you're just as valuable as the person that carries 5, to me. Because when you're bidding your jobs, you're bidding them based on the staff you have and the production rates of those people. So, maybe that's a con. Not to me. I've struggled with finding a con. I'm a huge promoter of, actually I didn't prepare much for this interview, but one thing I did prepare was, you always ask people what accounts they should follow, and literally all the accounts that I'm going to give you when you ask me that question are women's accounts, because I think that all of us need to listen a lot more to what they're saying, because they are the future of the business to me. The sausage party is over.
And yeah, that question was really putting you on the spot, and putting you on the spot was actually your truck driver.
Oh, go Christy. Nice. All right. Sure.
All right. And this person, I assume is also really close to you as well. And he asks you, when is it that you're going to get a real job? And tell him that his father wants to know.
So I was going to guess that was my dad that asked that question. My dad and I have a long-standing history of, he was a bus driver. He worked in the union, and he has a long-standing history of thinking. I mean, this is a long time ago too. This is not him now, but when I was younger, he would, say, "When are you going to get a real job?" And, I think that that's something that has stuck with me for a long time. And I'm sure when he said that he was just, get a job in the union or get a job in in an office, I think that, in general, and I still think this is still, and this is part of the problem with finding staff in landscaping, is that in general, the perception of being a landscaper is that your retirement package is a wood box 6 feet under the ground. There isn't a big, it's a different kind of business. So, I can tell you that that's the question that my dad asked me. And I think that, one of the amazing things about social media was that, my dad's very active on social media, even though he's in his 70s. And I think that one of the greatest things in my life that social media brought me was that he was able to understand more what we were doing and the skill that it took and the dedication and the hours and the work ethic. I think he just had a greater understanding of what we were all doing for a living out here. And I think that he has a greater appreciation, and I think that he would never ask me that now. And then maybe, but yeah, absolutely. That was one of his questions. Sure.
As we end this interview, you've already guessed a couple of questions I want to ask you as we close out. And one is, what are those accounts that we should be following that you follow online?
So here's my list of accounts. And I think that these are, I don't know if I got them all, but I think that these are really important. I think that all of us should be listening and watching to what all these women are saying online, because if this is their experiences that they're posting, and if you want to employ women in your business, I think that's incredibly valuable. I think you should follow these accounts and learn about how you can make perhaps your company a better place. Here's my list. We have Hillary at Leaf Landscaping, Paver Kelly, who's my wife and runs our office. Brittany Allman is amazing. Western Landscape, at Christy Barton 10. Make sure you follow her. At Wonderland 0005, Alice is awesome. At Missy Schuber, who is more of an excavating contractor, but still promoting women in the industry all the time. At the Operator, at the Crew Collab, and at Kate Builds It. These are all, to me, accounts that, if you do anything, if you listen to this podcast and you do anything, I think you should go follow those accounts, and you should definitely try to look at bringing more women into your business. Our business is basically run by women. Our whole business is women. Without the women in our business would literally probably just still honestly be me and Kaz doing lift and relays at 50 years old and subcontract. That would be our business without women. So I think that I think you follow those accounts, listen to what they're saying. Maybe you don't agree with all of it, but listen to what they're saying, and then try to build from those experiences they're having, because their experience are vastly different from what your a male experience is, and vastly different from what you might even conceive is their experience. So that's my who to follow.
Yeah, and one of the probably the only time I've seen you in public, this was years ago now, you were speaking at a Permacon conference, and you did that Alan, I believe it is, from Hangover Wolfpack speech.
Yeah.
And Hillary was there as well, speaking about women in construction, and that kind of really, I think, opened a lot of people's eyes.
I think that was, of all the things that I did at Permacon, I feel like them being brave enough to, as a big corporation, to put her on the stage and let her speak about those things was her being brave enough to do it, and them being brave enough to allow her to do it at their biggest event of the year where they're trying to sell product. I think those were, I feel like that event really changed some perception in the industry.
Definitely. And Paver King, as we wrap this up, what I want to close with, what is that thing now in your business that you wish you'd known from the very start, from when you first started?
Okay, so I have a few, but the number one thing I would say that I wish I knew when I first, this is like many business, a long time ago, is that you can't shovel your way to a good price. I still abide by that today. You cannot shovel your way to a good, you can't work harder to make up for a bad price. I think that a lot of people, when they first start their businesses, they price things low and they're like, I'll work really hard and it'll be okay. And the fact of the matter is it's not going to be okay. You cannot work hard enough to get yourself out of a bad price. So to pay more attention to that, that's my number one thing. I have a couple more if you want, but that's really my number one, is you can't shovel your way to a good price. The other thing I would say is, and I hear a lot of people on here, a lot of people, they always refer to, they always say my customer. And I think that, you need to change your language to my client. Customers buy chocolate bars and they buy Big Macs. Clients buy landscaping and outdoor living spaces. So, when you talk to right from your supplier, right through your whole chain to get your project, when you describe people as your client, everyone immediately feels like that's more important than when you describe them as your customer. So, change your language. You can't shovel your way to a good price, and change your language from, your customer to your client. Those are two things that I wish I knew. I mean, there's a lot of things I wish I knew. Yeah, I could probably talk for 10 minutes about this topic, but you tell me when you want to cut me off on the one thing that I would rather do.
You keep going if you have anything else you want to get off your
sure.
chest.
I think that if you want to generate the most money from a landscape outdoor living project, you cannot be selling landscaping, or you need to be selling the experience of the install. All this is a service industry. Anyone can go to any supplier and buy pavers or walls or anything. So you need to sell the experience of the install. So we strive hard. I have strived very hard in the past to sell the experience of the people coming, the transfer that you're going to see, how your space is going to develop, how you're going to be actively participating and making sure that this is exactly what you dreamed of. Your interaction with our staff is going to be amazing. We're going to have our own bathroom. I think that, anyone can sell a 300 square foot patio. Only you can sell the experience of dealing with your company. And that once you're the only person, you have a monopoly on that experience of your company, you can sell jobs for as much as you want, because you're the only one that has that experience. And one thing that I've worked on, and Nancy and I have worked on for years, is selling an experience, not selling a job or a project. It's all about the experience. That's another life lesson I learned, is you have to try to find something that you're selling that only you are selling, because that means there's no other options. And you want to eliminate options. So that's sell experience, sell the experience, don't sell the project. Another one that I learned a long time ago is there's never a bad job. This is up on my wall too. There's never a bad job. There's only a bad price. If you're currently involved in a project or a job that you're like, man, this is a bad job, then you just didn't charge enough to do it. That's another, like if you're looking at something and you're like, man, the access sucks here, it's gonna be terrible, and then you don't charge enough, that's when you'll be like, man, this is a bad job. But if you charge the right rates and you're bringing back in the right amount of money, then it doesn't matter. You'll never look at yourself and say this is a bad job. It's what the other thing I would say to people is, a lot of people ask me about how to improve their sales. And I think that, for me, I didn't really excel at sales until I mastered building rapport with people immediately. I think that there's not enough people talking about, you make a lot of money in your sales process. I understand we're all contractors and we're building stuff, but a lot of your profit margin is dictated by your ability to sell things at a premium. And one of the greatest ways to sell things at a premium is, if it's a multiple bid situation, I try to avoid those, but if it is, you have to build the best rapport with someone. Someone will pay you more if they just simply liked you better and they trust you more. So, practice building rapport, immediate rapport. People say, how do you get good at it? What I did was I picked, for about 2 years, I picked a different coffee shop every morning, and I would walk in and buy coffee. And if they didn't it's the same people there every morning, right? In general, running the cash, like they have a schedule, and if by the end of the week that coffee shop didn't know what my order was, I'd order the same thing every day, then I failed at building rapport with those people. I did that until they got to know me. I think that building rapport with people is another thing I learned along the way that you got to be great at immediate. So those are I guess my words of advice, things I wish I knew. But anyway, I've had a great time doing this. It was super fun, brother.
Mike, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. And well, first off, thanks to everybody that submitted a question. There was too many to get to in the first place. We'd be here for hours, especially the questions that I still have for Mike. This could be a full day podcast, but to respect your time, we're going to say that's it for now. We're definitely going to have you back in the future. So it would be great to have you back. And Mike, thank you for your time.
No problem. I'm always happy to. You got an amazing thing going on here, and I'm always happy to participate any way that you would like. That would be amazing. We are gonna send Paver King swag to anyone whose question got asked. So if you forward me all their contact info when you put it together, we'll get that stuff out to everyone. I appreciate everyone's support online. It means a lot to me that everyone's out there, that everyone that supports us online.
And I think the easiest way to go about this is if you heard your question on the show today, reach out to us and let us know. There was quite a bit of questions. It was a little bit hard to organize everything in terms of getting the right flow of questions. So if you heard your question, message us, let us know. I'll shoot yourself some contact information so you know that they were on the show. Anybody that we didn't get to the question, we'll get to your question in the future when we get Paver King back on the show. And I just want to say, if you aren't following Paver_King on Instagram, it's one of my favorite channels to follow. I know a lot of people's favorite channels to follow because Mike, what you're doing over there, it's not necessarily what anyone else is doing. And I say that as a good thing. And we talked a little bit before we jumped on this interview about what that is. And, I've heard Jeff over at Alliance refer to you as like a daily show when it comes to this industry. And it's kind of interesting to just go on and see. And Richard from RC Outdoor said in his question to see what Paver King is saying today. So thank you for that entertainment.
Yeah, I'm happy that everyone enjoys. It's a great for all of us on our team.
And Mike, I'll leave it at that. Do you have anything else you want to leave our audience with as we close out this interview?
I hope that everyone's crushing it this year. I know there was a lot of challenges. I hope that everyone's having a good year and everyone's going to come out on the right side, and everyone will be around in the spring. I think it's been a challenging season for everyone. I think that we're honestly been experiencing a bit of burnout lately, all of us on our team. I hope that everyone sees it through to the end of the season, and everyone stays safe and stays mentally healthy and is leaning on the right people if they're struggling, because I think that our team, it's been a really long, stressful season, and I hope everyone's on the right side of their businesses in the spring when we all come out of it.